All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live session here. We're here with Jenna Richardson, and we're going to talk about the root causes of why we get stuck in our own head sometimes, and why, even though we know what changes need to be made and we know we need to do certain things, that is sometimes really, really hard to get ourselves to do those things. So, welcome, Jenna.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. So, this is going to be a really good session. This is probably one of the most common questions I get from our members here at Peak Integrative Medicine is that they have all the tools they have all the knowledge, they know what they need to be doing, and they might even do that. They might even make the change for a few weeks, but then they fall off track. They feel disgusted with themselves. They get frustrated, and then they find it hard to get rolling again, or they can't even get started in the first place. So today we're going to talk about why that happens, and hopefully we're going to learn from Jenna here some at least some initial strategies on how to make some of these changes in our own minds in order to perhaps motivate ourselves or find the ambition, find the drive to make those changes and then stick with them. So just to give a little background on Jenna, her and I met, what is it, like 4 or 5 years ago now?
At least,
It was in
possibly longer.
Yeah, it was in a
Yeah.
functional medicine mentorship group that we're still involved in. And we both started our functional medicine journey and our practices around that same time as well. And so we got to know each other really well. And she put on a great presentation for all of our providers in that group about a month ago now. And then also I posted in that group because I know we had some people in our practice with some challenges around making those changes. And she shared a lot of good input. So I invited her on a live session with us here today to talk more about that. So a lot of good stuff to go over, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time to go over everything. So I'm going to turn it over here to Jenna in a second. But if you're here live, hey, the advantage is that you're here. You can ask questions as we go along. If those aren't addressed as Jenna is speaking, we'll go back through those during breaks in the session. So at the very least, at the very end, we'll definitely go over those. So if you're watching the replay, go ahead and type your questions in as well. And myself and Jenna will monitor the chat afterwards, and we can answer those by replying to those comments. So, Jenna, I want to return this over to you because I don't want to waste any more time at all. I want to dive right into it. So, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Buddy. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me on today. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of near and dear to my heart because I was somebody who was always kind of stuck in this vicious cycle of what we call self-sabotage. Kind of chronic overachiever, yet chronic procrastination, and had to come to terms with like done is better than perfect. But that didn't occur until more recently in my life as an entrepreneur. So as Dr. Buddy had mentioned, we've known each other for a long time. One of the ways that we got introduced to each other is we both live, breathe this functional medicine realm, the whole foundational elements of health and well-being. And we've been in this space for quite a while. I co-founded a place called Princeton Integrative Health here in Princeton, New Jersey, which is very similar to Peak Integrative. And so, our philosophies and our approaches really align. And the whole concept of root cause is really something that has been fundamental and foundational to the way that we engage and practice medicine, health, wellness, well-being. So my journey has been kind of interesting. And the way that I came into the space of, subconscious mindset and empowerment around that is just a journey of understanding what does it mean to be truly healthy and well. And so when we think about health and wellness, we tend to think about the physical aspect, but that's really just kind of what I almost envision as like the base of the pyramid. So if we're building like a foundational structure on a base, it's going to be that physical health and well-being. On top of that, I would consider physiology. So things like hormones and neurotransmitters and all of the chemical stuff that's helping to communicate and direct the body to function in the way that it needs to. The next level on top of that pyramid, if you're thinking about it like that, would be emotional. So we all, I think, understand the value of emotional and mental health and wellness. I think even more so now, right, than we did even like 3 to 4 years ago. Everyone's struggling with something as a result of the chaos of the last few years. So that's become a bit of an epidemic, I think, for the world in which we live, unfortunately. And then at the peak of that pyramid is what I would consider energetic. So I don't want to get crazy woo-woo on you. I'm not like a super woo-woo person. I'm actually very type A, very science forward. That's kind of been my background. But one of the things that I recognized was missing in the journey toward optimal health and well-being was this kind of energetic component. So not just energy from the standpoint of mitochondrial energy production, but also our energy, how we show up in the world. We're, in the physical realm, as well as, if you believe above and beyond that, kind of the quantum or spiritual space. So in order to actually be healthy and well, all of these things, as we know, need to be in balance, right? We must be whole. We must be feeding off of and into each and every level of this in order to be at ease and not in dis-ease. And when we are in dis-ease or dysfunction, that's a really tough place to be because everything feels off. We don't feel well. We don't function well. We don't think well. Our brain doesn't work well. Our mind doesn't work well. We don't move well. We can't work well. We don't connect with people well. Like nothing works because we're not well. We're living in this state of disease and dysfunction. And thank goodness for places like Peak Integrative and Princeton Integrative Health and Dr. Buddy and his team and my team, because we're doing this amazing root cause work. And we've gotten really, really good at tapping into the physical roots and even the physiologic roots. We've got super cool testing that takes a look at that stuff. And even in really kind of a conscious way, the emotional and the energetic piece of things. But what I noticed in our journey, so we've been in practice 6 going on 7 years, is that through that process, there were still people, still patients that were stuck. They were still suffering. They were seemingly unable to get out of their own way, repeating the same patterns, showing up with the same challenges. And, these were people, as Dr. Buddy said, they may come in, they show up, they do the work, or at least some of that, and yet they still aren't improving. They're not healing. They're not getting the results that they or we expect. And so I began to wonder, because this is how our brains function, what's at the root of that, right? So now don't get me wrong. We also have the people who don't show up, don't do the work, et cetera. And there's a story there too. So what's the root that's kind of keeping them from doing the work? But the other aspect is I also do a lot of business coaching, mostly for doctors, health and wellness entrepreneurs. And in doing that, I started to see the same issues. So they say they want it, they show up for it, they put in the time, the effort, the energy, but there's something missing. There's something in their way of kind of stepping into their power and purpose. So what is that? And yes, both in the practice as well as in my coaching realm, we incorporate the coaching and the accountability and the frequent touch points and the guidance and really all the things for someone to be successful on their optimal health journey. And yet we still have these people who struggle. They suffer, they stay stuck. So the big question is why? So you're probably noticing my innate curiosity. I'm one of these people who's always asking questions ever since I was, yay high and could begin to speak my mind. But we're always digging deeper. And that's what we do in the functional medicine realm. I describe it kind of as peeling back the onion. So I think it's kind of a somewhat annoying superpower that I have. And I'm guessing Dr. Buddy probably has too. I think everyone who gets into this field, we have this kind of innate curiosity, this constant questioning, critical thought process. I am aware that it can sometimes sound like an irritating 3-year-old. I have 2 young kids. So it's, the why. But let's talk about that which lies beneath. So where the peeling of the onion got me to in this process was initially mindset. And that was a really easy target. So, these folks just don't have the right mindset. They're not in it to win it. They don't really want it enough. They aren't ready for it. It was a super easy excuse. But I didn't really believe that. Like at my core, I really just didn't believe that. I mean, yes, you have those people, right? You have those people, but these were people that were like really committed. They showed up, they invested, they did the right stuff. So in our practice, we started to implement some more mindset stuff, some mindful meditation and, some exercises to help to support mindset. And that was good. It was nice. People appreciated it, but it wasn't really doing the job. The same folks still just remained stuck and frustrated and stagnant. They just couldn't move forward. And there's a ton of work out there on mindset. If you jump onto any social media platform, you have people talking about mindset left and right. It's really been all the buzz, I would say, for the last several years. And we see it especially in the health and wellness space because that is important. Don't get me wrong. It's important to show up in a positive way, to show up with a growth mindset, to be ready to do the work and make the choice and create the change. It's all really important, but unfortunately, it's not really the root cause of what we're talking about here today. The cause of that stuckness or that self-sabotage. And the reason for that is because mindset, it's a conscious thing. So it's a collection of conscious attitudes that someone holds that really determines how he or she perceives the world. So the mind is kind of split into two key components. We have the conscious mind that controls, everything that we're aware of, our thinking, like some of our thought processes and decision making and rationalizing and logic and some of those things. But we have this subconscious mind that actually kind of lives beneath the surface. And when you look at those two things, what we see, it's almost like I've seen the image of an iceberg. So you have this like iceberg sticking out of the water, and the conscious mind is just that tip of the iceberg. So the estimates I've heard in kind of the scientific literature is that conscious piece is only about 3 to 5%, whereas the subconscious piece is anywhere from 95 to 97%. So it's a really big piece that kind of lies below the surface. So let's dig further. Again, always peeling back that onion. So, we have this set of attitudes, and I'm not talking about the thing that your sassy pants teenager may show up and give you when you ask them to take out the trash. What I'm talking about is like an attitude being a settled way of thinking or feeling about something. So we form attitudes about things, and typically that attitude is reflected in a person's behavior. So attitudes impact behavior, makes sense. But what forms the attitude? Our attitude is actually created by our thoughts. And consciously, most of the time, we're able to choose our thoughts. And this is really where, if you go down that path of exploring mindset and how to shift mindset, that's really what it's all about. It's choosing to make different thoughts. So that's important. That impacts your attitude, which then impacts how you show up in the world, your behavior. So that's the conscious part. But remember that iceberg that lies below the surface. We're not really there yet. We're, again, chipping away at that. So there's more. So we have these thoughts that are thought over and over again. And those thoughts that are recurring, repeating, really ingrained in us, those are our beliefs. And those go even deeper. They're really buried down beneath that surface level. And there's something even more powerful down there. It's more than just mindset. It's more than just these beliefs on their own, but it's really down deep in the depths of the subconscious mind, which, again, as I said, makes up about 95 to 97% of who we are. So it's our beliefs and our values, our memories, our perception, and truly informs our reality. So deep down at that subconscious core, it's kind of like a playlist on repeat, or a standard operating procedure, or a hard drive of our computer, our backstage crew at a show, our root system, to get back to that kind of root terminology. It's constantly feeding and filtering that which passes into the realm of our conscious thought. And this is our belief system. So your belief system literally influences and affects and impacts every single moment of your life. And most of us don't even realize that. So everything we say, everything we do, it's rooted in a garden where seeds were planted years ago, even decades ago, depending on how old you are. So things we saw, things we felt, experienced, heard, these things that developed over the course of time with reinforcement and nourishment. These things grew, the seeds that were planted way back when, they grew, and they grew either into flowers or weeds. So it's chronic recurring beliefs, behavior patterns, habits, things that now literally define who we are, how we show up in the world, what our reality looks like. So kind of crazy, I think, when you think about it, right? Like, I think it's just not something that we as humans think about on a regular basis. We're really tapped into and tuned into that conscious mind because we're always using it. As long as we're awake, we're using it. It's constantly going for many of us. But all the buzz about mindset and the choosing to think differently and act differently and show up differently, it's great. It's super important. Having that positive growth mindset, definitely something we should all strive to have. But for many of us who get caught in that stuckness, that stagnancy, that self-sabotage, it's greater than that. It's more than that. So just the shifting of the conscious mind, it's a start, right? It's a 3 to 5% impact start. But more often than not, it's just not enough. So we need to go deeper. and tap into that subconscious mind and really reframe and reprogram that playlist, reseed the garden. So we can kill the weeds once and for all, and cultivate the beautiful and bountiful garden of flowers and fruits and all the things that really serve us in life and moving forward and creating a really robust and positive and impactful reality. So here, really the bottom line is that for anyone who's felt stuck, and I've been there, it's not you, right? We think it's us. We blame it on, why do I keep doing this? We get stuck in that constant cycle of self-sabotage and self-blame and just feeling negatively about making the wrong choices and not having the willpower and all of those things. We keep beating ourselves up. And so if you are doing the conscious work, if you're choosing you, if you're showing up, if you're doing the right things, it's probably not your willpower. It's probably not you in the conscious space. It's more likely that pesky subconscious programming that lies beneath the surface. So how I ended up here is, coming from the functional medicine space, I realized pretty early on, in addition to kind of my pyramid approach to like physical, physiologic, emotional, and energetic health and how those all funnel back to each other, is that there are really three key things that keep us, I refer to like sad, sick, and stagnant. And those are toxins, trauma, and thoughts. And so as practitioners, that first one, if you're working with, Peak or you're working with Princeton Integrative Health, you're very aware of this because we're talking about it a lot of the time, which is that toxicity piece. So actual toxins that our bodies carry around. So we work to eradicate those, eliminate them from our body as we are now, and then reduce and minimize exposure moving forward. But it's the other two, the thoughts and the trauma piece, have become the bigger challenge. And honestly, they're so intricately connected. So that's really how I got into this work, this subconscious mindset work, is because I saw the people in our practice who, despite having the knowledge, as Dr. Buddy said, despite having the tools, despite having the team, the cheerleaders, the accountability, the support, the encouragement, despite even having the right mindset, they remained stuck. And so I wanted to understand why, and then I wanted to be able to help. So here's the really interesting thing, and what I've learned over the years of my study here is that most of our beliefs and our belief system, they're formed by the age of 5. So most of that time, a majority of that time, my conscious mind can't even remember, right? Like we don't really have a whole lot of memories before the age of 5. Type in the chat if you're somebody who has like a really conscious memory before the age of 5. I have some memories, but very few. So, and then the ones that I do have are like super impactful and possibly like I dare categorize it like this, but like somewhat traumatic. So, one of the things I remember, I was probably 4 or 5 years old, is my parents and I had driven. I'm here in New Jersey. I was living in upstate New York at the time when I was young. That's where I grew up. And we had driven down to Tennessee to attend the World's Fair. Now, I don't even know if they have the World's Fair. I'm dating myself. I'm going back 40 some years now. And there was an exhibit kind of in the center of the fair, and it was robots. They were robots. So again, conceptually speaking, because 40 years ago, robots looked a heck of a lot different than they look now. We had no like AI or ChatGPT or any of that stuff. So they were kind of like Star Wars looking things. Think like, is it C3PO or 3CPO? And, just what you would envision to be like in a Star Wars movie. And I, being, just a tiny one, I must have like repositioned myself in the crowd to get a better view. And when I looked up for my parents, they weren't there. And so, of course, I began to cry and grew hysterical. And, I remember I literally remember this as if I'm watching it. It's like a holographic image I have. So I remember a woman grabbing me by the hand, taking me over to a security guard. And the whole thing probably lasted maybe 60 seconds. In my mind, it felt a lot longer. But that memory is hugely impactful. And it's something that I've stored away because it was so impactful and like I said, dare I say, traumatic for me in that time. So these are the big things. These are the things that stick, the things that shape us. So, when you think about it, most of these beliefs and belief systems are shaped by the age of 5. So, like your relationship with money, shaped by the age of 5, your relationship with health, shaped by the age of 5, your relationship with love was shaped by the age of 5. And I think most importantly, often our relationship with ourselves was shaped before the age of 5. So, as you know, you might be able to remember when you were that young, and especially for folks who are parents and have kids and can observe this, kids are sponges, right? So when we're kids, we hear everything, see everything, we take it in. And what's really interesting is the brain at that point, it doesn't really have a concept of logic. So we take it for what it is and we create beliefs around it. So we're greatly influenced by people that are around us in our environment, whether that's our parents or other family members, maybe school and friends to some extent, situations and circumstances that are really greatly beyond our capacity for conscious comprehension. And we stuff it away, and we stuff it away where? We stuff it way down into that subconscious. So down beneath that surface. So it's kind of funny because I have a 5-year-old daughter now. I also have a 9-year-old son, but I hadn't really discovered this work when he was 5. So with my daughter, I'm really like consciously observing her through a whole new lens. And because I now know what I know and I do what I do, and I'm super curious to observe and hear her perception of things, it's really kind of interesting, funny, and fascinating. So for instance, it was yesterday morning. I was driving her to school, and we drove by a house in our neighborhood that we drive by every day. And it was kind of a rainy, dreary day. And so she had been looking out the window at the raindrops hitting the windows. And I'm driving through the neighborhood, and all of a sudden, and I had caught this out of the corner of my eye, but all of a sudden she screams out, "I just saw a lion." And I knew the house we had driven by actually was an older woman who lived there, and she had a big dog, which was like a very furry, big collie. So I knew what she was referring to. And I was somewhat unfazed by it, but literally with this like tone of heightened excitement and awe, "I just saw a lion," she screams out. So did she actually just see a lion? No. Did she believe she just saw a lion? Yeah, I believe she probably did. And will that experience specifically be filed away in her subconscious filing cabinet to remain forever and ever? I'm not sure how impactful it was, but you see what I'm getting at here. So she experienced something, she tied a feeling to it, had an emotion around it, right? And that created a belief for her. Now, a belief system, which is really at the depths of everything, that takes a bit more to form. But if you grow up in a household where your father's always stressed about work and you hear him repeatedly say things like, "This job is going to kill me," you may form a belief system about work. If your parents argue frequently, maybe going through a divorce, you may form a belief system about love. Conversely, you could grow up in a household where your parents are amazingly in love with one another and could create a very positive impression or belief system about love. Or maybe they're so enthralled with one another that they believe themselves to be the only two people in the world. And so there's kind of this neglectful situation or environment where maybe you form a belief of like, "I'm not loved, I'm not enough," all of that stuff. So, and it's not always parents, although obviously we're impacted pretty significantly around, that our household and how we grow up, but it could be teachers, it could be friends, it could be bullies. It could be, a school play you weren't picked for, a sports team, or even, I remember being in like elementary school gym class and, watching the kids who got picked last or even being picked last for certain things. Like these are all impactful and influential things that form our perception of ourselves and our place in the world, which essentially is, kind of the standard definition of our reality. It creates our reality. So I think as a parent of youngish kids, when I first discovered this work, I was a little bit freaked out, right? Because I was constantly thinking like, did I do something wrong? Did I look at them wrong? Did I say something wrong? Did I sneeze wrong? And sometimes as parents, it feels like you're doing everything wrong. So just, quick disclaimer, like it is what it is and it's not about you. So don't let that freak you out. It's really about them. So they're going to draw their own perception, their own conclusions, no matter what you do. They're in the process of creating their own reality, as we have all done. So But I think it's good to have this awareness as a parent, and it's definitely changed how I show up, not just for my kids, but for my husband and for my family and for my friends and my community and my practice, our clients and patients here. So I think it's a really great kind of conscious awareness to have. So back to the subconscious, which is what we're talking about here. So while this may seem kind of mysterious or almost elusive, it's really not. It's you, right? It's like your programming, it's your playlist, it's who you are. And the really great news is that even though those kind of preliminary belief systems are formed really early in life, if you don't like it, you can in fact change it. So you really have the power to shift that narrative, to update the playlist, and to prune the garden. So the question I get all the time is like, well, but how, right? Like, how do we get started here? So my beautiful mentor, Marissa Peer, who created Rapid Transformational Therapy, which I'm now certified in, I can call myself a rapid transformational therapist and subconscious success strategist. She wrote this amazing book called Tell Yourself a Better Lie. So do that. Tell your mind exactly what you want it to do, who you want it to be. So your mind knows. She's got a bunch, I think it's 17 rules of the mind. And one of them is that your mind knows that it's its job to do exactly what you tell it. And your beliefs, you make your beliefs, and then your beliefs make you. So she encourages us to show up and just tell ourselves a different lie, a better lie. So you think you're incapable of doing something, tell yourself otherwise. Are you a chronic procrastinator? Tell yourself otherwise. Because a lot of it is in these words and in this programming, whether we're programming from, we're programming from our conscious mind to our subconscious, that we're able to kind of recreate these stories, reprogram these playlists. So you want to tell it and tell it again, right? Create your reality. We are all creators. So we can be who we want to be. We can show up how we want to be, but we have to first be clear on what that is, and then tell ourselves and tell ourselves again, because your mind learns through repetition. So it's not just about reprogramming the playlist, but then you want to play that playlist on repeat. So a few tips kind of around that, right? So your mind can only work in the present tense. So you need to make sure that you're communicating for today and not the future. So this is where kind of those affirmations, which I think with the mindset work and all that, everyone's really familiar with affirmations. But sometimes I think what happens is we try to create affirmations for the future. So like, I am becoming, or I will be. And really you want to speak in the present tense. So I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am in love, I am successful, I am happy, whatever that might be right now. So the right now piece is important. Your mind doesn't understand negatives. So don't use the words don't, can't, not, never, any of that. You don't want to tell it what you don't want or what not to do. You want to be really clear in a positive way about what you do want and what you do want it to do. So tell it what you want, not what you don't want. The words you use must be dynamic and descriptive. So the mind actually learns through pictures. So as we're speaking these words and we're feeling into these words, the way the mind really learns is that it creates an image, it creates a picture, and then it creates the feelings and emotions that tie back to that picture. I know I have this, and I referenced it earlier, that kind of holographic image, almost feeling like an out-of-body experience. So hopefully y'all can kind of resonate with that if you've ever had it. I think the most impactful memories I have, I almost can visualize. It's almost as if it was removed from my body and I'm looking down on like my younger self in these certain situations. So you want to paint the most beautiful picture for your mind. So for instance, rather than saying something like, yeah, I want to lose weight, you should be saying something like, my body is an amazing, well-oiled, fuel-burning, high-performance machine. You want to set your mind on fire through your words. And you want to do this daily. You want to do this multiple times a day. Start simply by just telling yourself a new story first thing in the morning, and then maybe repeating that story before bed. So this is the conscious work, which seems, as we're talking about conscious versus subconscious, almost counterintuitive, but it actually is really impactful. And again, you can program your subconscious mind through your conscious actions. So it's something you can easily do and work into your daily routine. However, for faster and more impactful work, we leverage a heightened state of subconscious awareness, which can be obtained through hypnosis. So my modality, which I referenced earlier, is called rapid transformational therapy, and it combines a few key modalities. One is hypnotherapy, two is NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, three is CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, and then psychotherapy and neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is the rewiring of the brain. So the pruning of the garden and, you know, the replanting of the fruits and the flowers. It's ensuring that the brain is connecting those synapses in a more of a positive approach or positive way. So I find that kind of interesting, right? Because again, I said I'm not woo at all. I come from a very kind of like conventional, very science forward background. And so it's interesting because I think some of the people hear the word hypnosis or hypnotherapy and all of a sudden they think of like swinging pendulums and stage performers who are like, you know, making people dance around and cluck like chickens. And it's really nothing like that. So in my work with hypnosis, what hypnosis is it's really just like a very deep parasympathetic state. So a very relaxed state. And what this does is it allows us to clear the noise of the conscious mind and tap into and transform those sticky subconscious beliefs, those things that are keeping us stuck, sad, sick, whatever the challenge might be. So I'm going to share a link with Buddy, which he can pass on to folks who are interested in learning more about the deeper work that I do. But in the interest of time, I wanted to give you guys a taste of the work itself. So before that, I wanted to share a quote, which I think is super relevant here, which comes from Mahatma Gandhi. So he says, and this goes obviously way back, but your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. So if there's really anything that I encourage you to take away from this, it's that you can do this, right? You can do this. It's not your fault. There's probably some subconscious belief systems more deeply ingrained that are holding you back from achieving your goals, your dreams, your reality, you know, the reality that you're destined to be here for. Mel Robbins gave a statistic that I love, and I'm not even sure what the validity of it is, but if you know Mel Robbins, she's like a motivational speaker, best-selling author. She always talks about the fact that the probability of each of us being on this earth is 1 in 400 trillion. So when you actually calculate backwards the statistics of like, you know, the probability of our parents being here and then our parents' parents and then our parents' parents' parents and all of that, like the probability of us being here is 1 in 400 trillion. So you're here for a reason. You're here to create something beautiful and amazing. And sometimes it's just about getting out of our own way. In the business coaching I do, I work with some of the most amazing people who are just stuck. They do all the work, they've got the best things, and they just unfortunately feel stuck and unable to share that. So, you know, just a word of encouragement is that you have all the power you need. If you need help getting unstuck, hopefully the next 10 to 15 minutes as I walk you through some of my work will create some level of a mini transformation. But I'm going to ask Dr. Buddy to share a link to an upcoming masterclass that I'm hosting. It's free. It's called $1 Billion Belief System Breakthrough. So that will be posted here in the chat. And also feel free to email me for more information, which is Jenna, Jenna, at jennarichardson.com. So let's do this. For those of you who are open, I'm going to take you through a 10 to 15 minute mini transformation. For those who maybe don't wish to participate or don't have the time right now, I do thank you so much for your time and interest and wish you all the best. And then for those of you who do wish to stick around, let's get this done. So here's a little taste of RTT for you. So I'm just going to ask you to make sure that you're comfortable. If you can, and you're in a place to do so, I just ask that you put your phone in do not disturb mode or shut down the computer screen and just kind of tap into and into yourself for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And we're just going to start with some breath. So I'm going to ask you to breathe in and out. And again, in and out. Let's keep that slow and relaxed breath going. Now I'd like you to just look up with your eyes open as high as you can, as if you're trying to look into your own eyebrows or at a real or imaginary spot on the ceiling. Keep your eyes open and just look up and breathe in and breathe out. Take another deep breath in and out. And just one final time, breathe in, keep your eyeballs up. And this time as you exhale, just close your eyelids right down, all the way down. And as your eyelids close down, the muscles and nerves in and around your eyes are becoming heavy, droopy, drowsy. Your eyelids are starting to feel as if they've been glued shut, sealed shut, locked tightly together. So now you can just forget about the position of your eyes and just let them relax. Just let them go wherever you feel comfortable. Just completely relaxed. Now I'd like you just to drop your chin a fraction of an inch, and it should feel as if you're looking over the edge of a balcony or down a flight of stairs. And now as I count you back from 10 to 1, you're going to be moving down that staircase. You're going to see your feet, hear your feet, and feel your feet treading each and every step as you move down. You're moving on to step 10 as each muscle, every nerve turns loose, lets loose, and you go deeper. Taking step 9 and 8, and you can see your feet, hear your feet, and feel your feet treading each step as you go deeper. On to step 7 as you move down, drift down, sink down, deeper. You're taking step 6, going deeper with each and every breath. And on to step 5. You're halfway down as each muscle, every nerve turns loose, lets loose, and you go deeper. On to step 4, and then 3, going deeper with each sound, every noise, every movement around you, carrying you deeper and further into hypnosis. Taking step 2, just go deeper, sinking further into that awareness of yourself. On to step 1, just go deeper, sink deeper, drift deeper. And every time I snap my fingers and say the words, go deeper, drift deeper, sink deeper, you're simply going deeper and deeper into your own internal state. So just go deeper, drift deeper, sink deeper. And as you go deeper, you don't need to think about anything except one thing. You have the most phenomenal power to dialogue with your mind in a way that gives you the most phenomenal results. And every day you remember that your mind listens to the words that you tell it. Your mind does what it thinks you want it to do. Your mind does what you tell it to do. And now that you know this, you make it a point of telling your mind the most amazing, most beautiful, most powerful, most motivating things. I want to do this. I've chosen to do this. This makes me happy. I've chosen to feel great about doing this. If you want to have massive motivation, huge energy drive, you desire to go to the gym and love every minute there and give it 150%. You want to make a lot more money and commit to your business or your job. You want to be really healthy and fit. Or if you want to know that you truly, truly matter in this world and that you're significant and lovable. Whatever it is, I want you to get an image of what it is for you. I want you to paint that picture in your mind. I want you to tell your mind, show your mind, spell it out for your mind, what it is that you want. I want you to let your mind know, this is what I want. This is what I insist on. This is what I require from and for myself, for my life, from now on. You let your mind know every single day what it is you desire and require. Tell your mind every day, I am choosing this, and I am choosing to feel great about it. And your mind gets it immediately. Your beautiful mind, your brilliant mind, the most powerful, most driving force in you. It's locking onto my words, locking onto your images, and accepting them so easily and effortlessly. And every single day, you are so motivated, so conditioned, so programmed to create these words and these images in such a powerful, specific, and detailed way that your mind has no choice but to give you the most phenomenal results. You start that dialogue. You do it every single day. Your words signal very clearly to your mind what you want, what you require, and what you're prepared to do to get it. And because your mind hears these words, sees these images, it understands immediately, and it motivates you, conditions you, programs you, and compels you to take action, to think positively, to do what you need to do, to have the amazing, extraordinary, uncompromised life that you're determined and destined to have. Anything you truly desire requires making some change in how you think and how you speak to yourself. You make those changes. You embrace those changes. You love those changes. They excite you. They empower you. They delight you. Your ability to feed your mind with better words and images, it produces so much power, so much energy, so much motivation, so much commitment, and it's having such an amazing and compelling impact on you. Because you have the power. You use that power. You have the most phenomenal power to show your mind, to tell your mind how you want to think, how you want to act, how you want to react, how you want to behave. You communicate with yourself in a very powerful, solutions-oriented, and results-driven way. You use the power of your mind. You direct and command your mind to give you the results you want by changing your language forever. Because your body is controlled by a network of intelligence which is influenced by your mind. And you have made up your mind, set your mind to speak to yourself in a completely different way. And first, it's what you do, and then it's who you are. And it's so easy. You start to add these words. I've chosen to do this. I've chosen to be more ambitious. I've chosen to do more, to demand more of myself, and I've chosen to feel great about it. You're communicating with yourself in the most powerful way every single day. And every part of you is seeing results, and all you have to do is hear these words, think these thoughts, see these images, and accept these suggestions. Every negative habit of action is, of course, run by a habit of thought. And you're changing your thinking. And you're changing the way you're thinking is dramatically changing any negative habits. They are fading away. In their place, you're embracing and accepting new, wonderful habits of success. You're changing your thinking. You're changing your thought processes. Your whole belief system is changing. And that means that even your biochemistry is changing. You have more energy, more drive, more passion, more dedication, more commitment. You are more ambitious, and you feel so strong. You feel stronger every day because every day you think and you see and you believe your mind's ability to change the way you act simply by changing the way you speak to yourself. Your mind does what it thinks you want it to do. Your mind does what you tell it to do. You tell your mind amazing things. Tell your mind amazing things all the time through your imagination, through your creative thinking. You're directing your mind, telling it what you want, showing it what you want, showing it what you require of yourself, and your mind immediately understands. Your mind is completely on board. You have that wonderful combination. You have goals, you have beliefs, and you have something so special, the ability to communicate with yourself. You are becoming unstoppable. You have everything that it takes and so much more. You are beautiful. You are unique. You have abundant belief in yourself. But you have something else that gives you an extraordinary edge. You have an ability that it's becoming instinctive to you, to dialogue with yourself, to communicate with yourself in such a powerful way that you get results. Your mind is influencing your body, and you are influencing your mind in the most perfect and profound way. You have such a clear image of who and how you desire to show up in the world, and you use the most beautiful and brilliant words to create that image. You think these thoughts, you use these words, you see these images, and you're responding so powerfully to those direct mental commands. Your inner mind is picturing, manifesting, creating exactly what you desire. Your imagination has no limits, and neither do you. Your potential is expanding as you move toward it. You can't even know what your potential is because your potential expands as you move toward it. And as your potential expands, your mind expands, and your ability to dialogue with yourself expands. Your mind will never, ever go back to its old dimension because you're wiring these new, amazing, healthy habits of communicating with yourself in a productive, solution-oriented, and results-driven way. This image of you doing this is becoming so clear, so real, so attainable, more so with every day that passes. These words are becoming embedded in your mind. My voice is going with you. It's having a powerful, permanent, and all-pervasive impact on you. It's already so clear, so real, so lifelike. Everything you desire is already in the right place at the right time. You're making this happen. Whatever it might be, eating healthy food, going to the gym, waking up early to meditate, you tell yourself, I love this. This makes me happy. It gives me pleasure. And now your mind, which is always trying to move you toward pleasure and away from pain, it understands. You feed your mind the right instructions. You feed your mind the right words. You feed your mind the right images, and you feel unstoppable. You're changing your words, you're changing your thoughts, and it's changing your life. And it's so exciting. You have a phenomenal dialogue with your own mind. You tell it what you want, and your mind understands exactly what you want. It blocks any resistance, and it takes you exactly to where you need to be. Successful, healthy, and living an uncompromised life. You give your mind direct, specific, detailed, crystal clear commands. You give your mind direct instructions that signal and communicate to your mind in a way that only gives you maximum results. We all talk to ourselves all the time. Maybe we don't realize it, but we do. But now you talk to yourself in a way that is filled with so much love, so much worth, so much appreciation, and so much acceptance. And because you speak to yourself this way, you get better outcomes. So just for a few more minutes, tell your mind what you want. Tell it who you want to be. Tell it what you love. Tell your mind that you love doing whatever it is you need to do. Just like the Marines tell themselves that they love running through mud, sleet, and rain, or the way an Olympic athlete tells himself he loves training. You see, the best performers before performing tell their minds, I want this. I've chosen this. I love this. And that's exactly what happens. You're developing the most phenomenal skills, the most amazing ability to communicate with your own mind in a way that works. Your success in every area is so dependent on how you dialogue and communicate with yourself. You are able to dialogue with your mind in a way which absolutely ensures and guarantees success. It is detailed, it is accurate, it leaves no room for misinterpretation. And now that your mind is clear, it's with you, assisting you and taking you forward. So now, feeling excited, feeling thrilled, feeling delighted, feeling empowered, knowing and feeling certain that you're going to do this and show other people how to do it too, because you're becoming a leader in the way that you think. in the way that you communicate with yourself, and in the way that you show up with the world. So when you're ready, feeling really wonderful, really amazing, on the count of 5, you can slowly and calmly begin to return to your awareness. On the count of 4, maybe just wiggling your fingers and toes. On the count of 3, taking another deep breath in. On the count of 2, becoming fully aware of your surroundings. And on the count of 1, feeling wide awake, fully aware. Just open your eyes, fill your lungs, take a long deep breath in and out, and welcome back. And that's what I've got for you today. Still with me, buddy? Can't hear you. Are you muted?
All right, I'm back.
Okay.
Thank you for that. That was, yeah, feel totally different coming out of that than going into it. So that was awesome. So if you guys, we got some live viewers now, so let us know what you think of that, and if anything came up for you. You don't have to be specific, but yeah, share your thoughts on that. Share if that was helpful for you guys. And if you have any questions, we have a few minutes here before the top of the hour. Go ahead and type those in the comments there, and we'll address those. But yeah, this is such a needed area for people, and it's just a lot of people get stuck, and I like just a few things I wrote in the comments here, some takeaways as you were talking. And so yeah, most of our subconscious programming forms before the age of 5, and I like how you mentioned it's not good or bad, it just is. So
Yeah.
and we just need to recognize that. It's kind of like those things where you can identify like maybe behaviors or thoughts in yourself, and there's no reason to pass judgment on yourself for having those thoughts or feelings, or passing judgment on your parents, because we all just do our best. Like we all are parents now and doing our best, and sometimes we might make mistakes, but it just is. And understanding that we are shaped by that, it just raising that level of awareness, we can start to identify like, oh, I'm thinking that or feeling that this way just because of perhaps what happened to me in the past. But like you said, I like the analogy of weeding the garden. Sometimes we need to pull the weeds that aren't serving us, pull those plants out that aren't serving us, and then plant those seeds that will serve us. So
Yeah.
All really good stuff.
It's really interesting too, because you got kind of a taste of what I would call the transformation portion of RTT. But what we do in a one-to-one session is we actually go back through a process of regression, back to a few scenes from childhood in a hypnotic state, to really tap into and tune into what were those key areas, those key things that happened, right? Because we can consciously, all of us, I think, have memories from when we were younger of things that it's like you can consciously think back about, oh yeah, like this is how I felt then, and maybe that influenced me, moving forward, or the challenges that I have now as an adult. But like some of the things that come up for people in these sessions when they're just, we've quieted the noise of the conscious mind. And, I kind of describe hypnosis as like asleep. You're not asleep, but you're asleep of the nervous system. So you're fully in control, but you're just really able to tap into that 97% that maybe isn't always accessible to you. So, we go through a process, and some of the memories that come up for people, it's like, wow, I didn't even know that was in there. Like, it blows their mind. I've even had people who've done some like really kind of crazy, like plant medicine journeys and things like that they come out of them and they're like, I'd never experienced anything like that. That was really, really amazing. Like, I didn't even know that was in there, or that I was holding on to that so strongly. Right. And so it's not just the tapping into and tuning into what are those things, what are those roots. Then we actually pull those weeds right out in the session. So it's a whole process of like releasing and reframing and then transforming in the session. And then I give people an actual recording. So kind of similar to what we just went through. And I encourage them to listen to that for 21 days following the session, because it takes about 21 days for those neural circuits to kind of rewire. So the seeds to be replanted and then the flowers to start to bloom.
Yeah, just to be in that parasympathetic state too. And we talk about the sympathetic overdrive and the fight or flight response. And it's basically a reactive, just fight or flight survival type of response. And it really, it shuts down the parts of our brain that has that more like subconscious thought, and that's that ability to kind of picture ahead and dream and vision, because your brain doesn't care about that when it's in the moment. It's that squirrel, hawks flying overhead, doesn't care about storing up nuts for the winter and planning ahead. It just needs to get the heck out of there in those couple of seconds. So,
yeah. And unfortunately, that's where most of us live nowadays, yeah. Right? Like 90% of the time. So.
Absolutely. So if someone wants to work with you one-on-one, what's the best way? Like, what's the next steps? Like, do they email you? Do they call you? And
yeah.
Where does it go from there? Let's because this is something new for a lot of people. So what does that process look like?
Yeah.
As they get started with
this? I'm happy to talk with anybody. I offer, kind of like 15, 20-minute discovery sessions. We'll talk about what the challenges are. I mean, I've seen RTT used for everything from, overcoming limiting beliefs in business to like health challenges, things that are showing up that actually are rooted in trauma or toxic thought patterns, fear of flying, fear of needles, stopping smoking, like really anything. It can be used for anything, which is really cool. I'm working on getting my website up, so that's still in process. But the best way to reach me is Jenna, Jenna, at JennaRichardson.com. So Jenna at JennaRichardson.com. We'll schedule a quick 15-minute, and then the way that it works is my sessions are around, as I said, about 2 hours. We work through a really kind of deep, complex process, and then I send people away with that transformational recording. And just don't want to toot my own horn here, but it's not about me, but it's actually about the power of the work. I actually have a woman who had a really super traumatic childhood, and had rheumatoid arthritis and a whole bunch of other challenges health-wise, as well as both like personally, the inability to put herself out there. She was a performer and just couldn't show up in the way that she needed to do that work in the most effective way. And at the conclusion of our second session, so most of the time RTT can be super impactful in one session. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3. But very rarely anything more than that. But she said, I've been doing talk therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy on its own. She's in her 60s for probably about 30 to 40 years since it like became a thing. And I felt more impact from 1 or 2 sessions with you than I felt in decades of doing that work. Because what do we do when we do that work? We get stuck in the story. And what our TT does is it actually unravels the story so that we can write a new one. And we work in the session on actually writing the new one together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If anyone's watching this and peak member or not a peak member, and you're feeling stuck, you feel like there's something missing, you just can't get to that point where you make the change and stick to it, definitely reach out to Jenna, set up that call, just have a discussion and see if it's something that's right for you. I put the email there in the comments. And this could be the kind of linchpin that's preventing you from getting to that next step, especially if you have the knowledge, you have the support. Maybe you're working with us here at Peak Integrative Medicine, but there's just something that's you just can't get over that hurdle. This could be that thing that gets you through that, and then everything else becomes that much easier, and then we're off to the races from there.
Yeah.
So any last comments, Jenna? And thank you so much for being here. This is a great service to our community here. And certainly to yours as well at Princeton Integrative Health. And but any last comments that you want to cover before we log off here for this?
I mean, I can't really think of anything. I think, just from a motivational standpoint, it's just kind of a concept that I live my life by. I may have mentioned it in the opening, which is kind of like done is better than perfect. Like just take the next step, just take the next step, and the next step leads to the next step. And those baby steps, you can climb up Mount Everest making baby steps. You don't need to kind of scale the peak all in one fell swoop. So let's do the work.
Absolutely. And as our mentor, Sasha Patel says, that's who we work with, the universe rewards action. So just keep taking that next step, no matter how small, build momentum from there, and you will see the results you want to see. So thanks again, Jenna.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone for tuning in live or watching the replay. And if you need anything at all, just reach out to either one of us and we'll get you some help. So, all right, guys, till next time, we'll see you later.